Proverbs 30. Are you ready? Am I ready? Think so. Proverbs 30, two chapters. That's it. 2 chapters of the Bible. Nothing more, nothing less. 30. We didn't do 30 and we didn't do 31. There's just 2. So this is interesting because the Debris Agor. So it's the words of Agor is what it sings of Agor. And I really don't know who Agor is. So we'll have to
find it chapters form independent.
yeah.
His collection name for unknown person.
Huh.
Agur, chapter 30, and King Lemuel's mother.
Yep.
Unknown, evidently it's not.
So this is fascinating.
I have to say it in verse 1 there, but it's
Yeah. Well, I'll start with verse 1 and we'll go around to my left. We'll go around and read that. Here we go. The words of Agur, son of Jakah, an oracle. Thus says the man, I am weary, O God. I am weary, O God. How can I prevail? Surely I am too stupid to be human. I do not have human understanding. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I knowledge of the holy ones. Who has ascended to heaven and come down, who has gathered the wind in the hollow of the hand, who has wrapped up the waters in a garment, who has established all the ends of the earth. What is the person's name? And what is the name of the person's child? Surely you know. Every word of God proves true. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, or else he will rebuke you, and you will be found a liar. You want to keep going?
Oh God, I beg favors to you. Let them have them before I die. First, help me never to tell a lie. Second, give me neither poverty or riches. Give me just enough to satisfy my needs. For I grow, I may deny you. Or if I go rich, I may deny you and say, who is the Lord? And if I am too poor, I may steal and thus insult God's holy name. Never slander a worker to the employer, or the person will curse you and you will pay for it. Some people curse their father and do not thank their mother. They are pure in their own eyes, but they are filthy and unwashed. They look proudly around, casting disdained glances. They have teeth like swords and fangs like knives. They devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among humanity. The leech has 2 suckers that cry out, more, more. There are 3 things that are never satisfied. No, 4, they say never enough.
There's ever thirsty for water, and the fire that never says enough. The eye that mocks his father and scorns to obey a mother will be pecked out by the ravens of the valley and by the vultures. 3 things are too wonderful for me, 4 I do not understand. The way of the eagle in the sky, the way of the snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a girl. This is the way of an adulteress. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong. Under 3 things the earth trembles. Under 4 it cannot bear up. A slave when he becomes king, and a fool when glutted with food. An unloved woman when she gets a husband, and a maid when she succeeds her mistress.
There are 4 things which are little on air, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a feeble folk, yet they make their homes in the crags. The locusts have no king, yet they all advance in ranks. the spider skillfully grasps with his hands. And it is in the king's palaces. There are three things which are majestic in taste. Yes, four, which are stately in a walk. A lion which is mighty among beasts and does not turn away from any. A greyhound, a male goat also, and a king whose troops are with him.
You've been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you've been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. For as pressing milk produces curd, and pressing the nose produces blood, so pressing anger produces strife.
Whoa.
There's some different animals.
Yeah,
What's-
I didn't have the greyhound in there.
What's your answer?
And the he-goat.
And then the one, I have. Their translation was spider.
Yeah.
That was very odd.
Wow.
That was in verse
I wonder if it, because like in my little footnote with the lizard, or it says or spider. So I'm wondering if it was like because of the Hebrew. So I'll have to look
Maybe
at
it's
that.
a trolley thing or something.
Yeah,
Right.
something like that. Those are good questions.
I mean, I would think lizards I mean, lizards exist for sure around
Yeah.
that area. Spiders, yeah.
Wasn't it? I thought it was, there's so many verses started out. There are three or four. I was watching the pattern and how different that was.
About that here.
And so, what was the second word in verse 15 for you? I have leech.
I
But
do
you
too.
didn't say that. You said something else.
The leech has two daughters.
Oh.
And Gil.
Who did that? Read that first.
Linda read that.
Lynn, what did
you
yours
have?
say?
Each has two suckers. Cry out.
Oh, suckers, that's what I
More and
wanted.
more.
Yeah,
This one
mine
says
said
the leech
daughters.
has Daughters. There's a big difference.
I
between a
would think
daughter and
And a sucker.
Mine
Yeah.
And my little footnote says the meaning of Hebrew is uncertain. So let's look 30:15. Let's see what. I gotta write it.
And the four is never enough.
It says a numerical proverb that has the pattern of 3 plus 1 things. So that is a pattern. It's a form of literature, evidently. 3 and 1.
Yeah.
Explain the mysteries of creation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
And I footnote, it says, the Hebrew says, two daughters who cry out, give, instead of two suckers.
Oh, the leech has two
So
daughters.
that word, right, in Hebrew is la'aluka. And that's the only place in the whole Old Testament where this word is. That's it. Aluka. And yeah, they just define it as a leech. Now there's an equivalent Arabic word because Arabic and Hebrew are very similar because they come from the same kind of alphabetic background. And it's sort of like a thing that's a vampire-like demon. So something that sucks out the life of something.
In what verse did you have greyhound? Because I didn't have greyhound, and that's hardly ever in the Bible.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
It was verse 31.
Oh,
And
is
I,
that true?
no, I have strutting rooster, the male goat, a king that
Oh,
leads his army.
male goat also.
Yeah, but spelling rooster can't possibly translate like a
To be
greyhound.
a great
The he-goat. Mine says the
Yeah,
he-
that's, but
Billy
the first
goat.
part of that verse.
Verse
First
31,
thing-
right?
says what? Yours,
31?
Kathy's. Oh, yours says sister? Who's
What's
the
that?
This
31?
means.
Oh, no.
No, first, we said they,
Oh. Here you go.
31
So
Gray
those
Owl.
are-
This has nothing to do with Proverbs, but last night I was watching the Tudor Christmas. And Henry VIII would have all these people bringing him gifts and they wanted to impress him. And then here came this woman with a greyhound on each side of her coming down the aisle
Oh.
towards the king. And they said he was a great dog lover. And it would have been greyhounds that they had. Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
So. On this Thais. And this is again, oh, 4 occurrences. This says 4 occurrences. Where does it occur 4 times? Genesis 30:35 as male goats. Genesis 32:14 is male goats. 2 Chronicles 17:11. And all those are male goats. But on Proverbs 30:31, in the North American Standard Version, it's translated as rooster. And the King James Version, you like what you read out of, right, yeah, is or the NKJV would be greyhound. And the
Yeah.
International Bible Version, it's rooster.
And go.
but not Greyhound.
No.
Well, and I think that's only for the King James Version. Now, I mean, the King James Version was, and the New King James Version was very focused on the King of England. Like the King of England, like had people translate the Bible so that it could focus on his reign.
Henry,
Wasn't,
what I said, it did
Yeah.
have something to do with
It
this.
sure did.
class.
but it
Yep.
wasn't Henry, wasn't that?
No, it was-
On that was James.
Yeah.
Because that's when the pilgrims. left
King
England.
James, yeah.
What was that?
But it was Henry that kind of left the
Rewritten the
Catholic
King
Church and,
Oh, I see,
you know.
I see.
Yeah,
What
they,
year would that have been?
The 1500, early
Oh,
part of
okay.
1500s.
Okay.
they were all fighting the Catholics and the Protestants.
Right,
So-
yep.
When
Yeah.
you think about it, it's
Same time as,
crazy.
as
Well, and what caused the problem then is, that would there be a new king? And if he was a different religion, then expected everybody in the country to become the opposite. You
Yeah.
had to be the,
Well, isn't that
religion
kind of what
of the king.
happens? Didn't they
Yeah.
go back
Yeah.
to Catholicism after
Yeah.
Henry?
well, sure, that was King
Right.
James the first, in the 20s, when they wrote the King James version.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, like in Ireland too, all that fighting was over religion.
I didn't know the Bible so much. history
Still
as much
exists
as I
today,
knew the
though.
Pilgrims. Yeah.
But not as violent or as much.
Not as much violence, but still violent in
Yeah.
Ireland, for
And
sure.
they're so similar now here, United States, I think.
Right. Well, yeah, there's still,
It's still some
there's
things,
still
but
some things.
But it's interesting the way that Ireland turned out to be so Catholic. England, not so much. They were more what? Episcopalian or Presbyterian, one or the other.
Church of England.
Yeah.
Church of England, there's 2 ways that there's the Church of England, and then from that come from Anglican and Episcopalian, which are pretty much like brother and sister kind of thing, you know. Still under the Church of England arc. Yeah,
That's
best,
also he could divorce his wife.
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. Yep, you have the power, you change it, right?
That's why so many
And
of the
they-
first presidents were. For the first
Yeah.
several.
Mhm.
And this, that, hold on. What's I gonna say? Oh, I know. You know, they celebrated the 12 days of Christmas. And then after the Puritans became more and more in control, that all those traditions went by the wayside
Oh.
because they were so strict. They didn't celebrate Christmas. They didn't
Yeah.
celebrate anything.
Mhm.
sounds like
But
the Jehovah's.
all the fun things of, you know,
Pretty
of the
much.
Tudor reign went away.
That's like by New
Mm.
Orleans and all those places when they were, they all were Catholic, they were forced, the natives and everybody to be Catholic, or I don't know, be killed or what, but I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
most of those countries, their government and their religion intertwined,
Yeah.
so, and when they constructed our government, they purposely tried to separate them.
Right. Right,
yeah,
yeah. Whew,
and now we're losing ground.
Yeah.
we're losing ground with what?
Religion, I think, compared to what it used to be.
Just something new. I don't think we're losing ground. We just have to be open to changing. And not, and we always have to remember that God is in the change. God is in the change. I think it's just because it's always changed.
Yeah, it's
We're
always
just in a
been
new
there, but-
era. I'm not scared. I'm just, ready to do something new. So we are. We are. So this, the Luther study pointed out verses 18 and 19. As like the focus. Those are the ones, the three things are too wonderful for me. For I do not understand the way of an eagle in the sky, the way of the snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, the way of a man with a girl. And this, they summarized it as there is a good deal of mystery in life. Here are listed 4 things that are beyond comprehension, evoking an attitude of wonder. There is wonder at nature, at technology, at the way of lovers. With all their wisdom, these writers also acknowledge that there remain some mysteries that they do not understand. Yep.
Says why adolescents act the way they do.
Whoa. There's a lot of mystery. I'm pretty, I I think I told it to one of the confirmation students. I'm like, it's okay to live with the mystery of God and not have all your questions answered. They're like, what? I was like, "Mhm, there you go." Yeah.
That they know answers to all
I don't know. They also highlighted verses 24 to 28 of chapter 30, which is the ants one. The 4
Yeah.
things on earth are
Yeah.
small, that they are exceedingly wise. The ants are people without strength, that they provide their food in the summer. And it continues on. They summarized it as learn something by observing the creatures of nature. This saying delights in pointing out things that can be learned from the observation of nature. One thinks of Harvard University professor Edward O. Wilson, who has spent a good part of his lifetime observing and reflecting on the sort of thing described in verses 24 and 25. His Pulitzer Prize winning book is entitled The Ants. Huh. There you go.
I don't think.
I kind of interpreted that as like, you may not have any strength, but in great numbers, you can do powerful things.
Hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. It'd be interesting to find out what the book The Ants is all about.
I'd be afraid to be about ants.
Hirexes, Hirexes.
Yeah, those are zoo animals.
Hirexes,
Yeah.
Oh.
They still have them. It's a different breed.
but it's a
Yeah.
badger.
Yeah.
Or really mean.
Like the Wisconsin badger.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then I'll be
And
one.
Wisconsin badgers, excuse me, have nothing to do with badgers.
What?
It's not a badger?
No, it's not about that kind of badger. A badger is when people first came to Wisconsin and mined, I think it was copper. They dug caves in the hill
Uh-huh.
to live in when they were digging for, I'm sure it was copper. And like the badger, but those people were fall badgers. Those
Uh-huh.
people that dug the holes in the cave, that made caves to live like badgers when they first came to Wisconsin. That's what the badgers are named after, not the animal badger.
Really? I never knew that.
That's down by Min.
And I never got there. Remember, we've been saying for years we should go there, but
Yes.
Well, it makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Those were
copper.
the original Wisconsin badgers, not the Wisconsin badgers that everybody thinks.
Like,
Indiana is the symbol nowadays.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And they're mean.
Oh, yeah, nasty,
Really,
like
You don't-
Wolverines.
Yeah, you don't want to run into them.
yeah, somebody told me a story one time about having their badger out in their shed or something.
Ooh.
And like what they went through to get rid of that was, it was
Oh, no.
I can't remember the details anymore, but they had to lure it away. They couldn't, confront it.
I bet.
Yeah.
So the word for spider or lizard in 28, this is the only place it occurs in the whole Old Testament, and it's shemamit. Shemamit.
Includes
Huh?
lizards and spiders.
Well, see, again, in the North American Standard, it's in English, it's lizard. In the King James and the New King James Version, it's spider. And the international version, it's lizard. So-
These are the lizards, little lizards that acted on it, right?
Like geckos, those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, that's from like, the context. The lizard can be grasped in the hand, yet is found in the places of kings. I guess when you were talking about your kind of understanding, it almost, for me, these chunk of verses is like observing the complexities of our whole world and how each piece plays an integral part. Like, my girls will always say like, Mom, there's a spider in the bathroom. I'm like, well, is it having dinner? Like, is it killing you? Like, what's going on? And like all the time, I'm like, well, there may be a spider in the house, but it does serve a purpose. It eats, it makes the web and eats flies. It eats, that kind of stuff that we don't
I don't
want.
mind flies and I don't mind flies.
Flies,
in the
yeah,
house. I don't want, but
And lizards, lizards will eat mosquitoes.
Michael
ticks and all
said
that
this
stuff.
list, somewhere here I read that this list of things we're talking about, ants and grasshoppers and whatever,
Uh-huh.
it was all a marvel of God's creation.
Sure. I love it.
That's where they should have put the greyhounds, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I really, yeah. So like and whenever I talk about creation, and I point out the two creation stories in the Old Testament, they're like, so what does this mean? What does it mean against like for understanding like Darwin and evolution and stuff? I said, well, you can understand the creation and how cool it is that God created, and you can marvel and continue to marvel about how God is still creating. And they went, what? So
A lot of people, when you look at ways of creation, they contradict each other, and that's just a horrible thing. But one adds to the other, it gives you more. And there's two versions, slightly different versions of the Lord's Prayer, and that makes people very uneasy that it's not what it is.
right.
Which one is
Different
right?
stories.
There's two different versions. Slightly
Genesis
different
1
versions.
and then the end of Genesis 1 into Genesis 2. Yep.
It has to do with mostly the creation of people, right? More so than.
Yeah.
One is out of
Genesis
injustice,
1,
one is out of-
yeah, Genesis 1 ends with the creation of humankind. And Genesis, the second one, begins with like people first. And then, Adam was lonely and was like, I need help. And God's like, okay, I made camels, cows, there's all this stuff. And Adam was like, I'll name them, but I'm still lonely. And then all of a sudden, that's when the rib and everything. So,
That would have been the best job naming them. Like hippopotamus. But
Yeah.
he didn't name them in English. I know.
all right, let's go and look at chapter 3:1, last one. Now, Kathy, you ended. Did you want to pick up with 31? Did you want to start?
Words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him.
What's an oracle? I was stuck on that before. I don't know what an oracle is.
A vision.
Oh, I guess I knew that at
Mine
one
says,
time.
mine says
I was-
message.
Okay. I looked
Yeah,
it
an
up.
or a vision with a message. Yeah. Thank you.
Says, advice of mother to a royal son includes being honorable and disciplined in relationships with women, being sober and defending the poor. So that's what we're going to be reading.
Got it.
No, my son, no, son of my vows, do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire strong drink, or else they will drink and forget what has been decreed, and will pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Speak out for those who cannot speak, for the rights of all the destitute. Speak out, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor.
That's
Wife. She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of merchants. She brings her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and tasks for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson. She makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the city gates, taking a seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She supplies the merchant with sashes. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her happy, her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give a share in the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the city gates.
what a funny way to end the chapter. The whole chapter was so profound, and yet it just kind of stopped.
But the whole book is about wisdom, and woman, wisdom is represented as a woman.
Yeah.
This is why those eggs are called 31 for
Yeah.
that company.
Right.
First
Is that right?
for this.
I knew that at one time. That's That's your black and white babe, is 31 babes.
Mhm.
They had all those wonderful babes that we look at inside, they're too expensive, we can't buy
They are
them.
too expensive.
We
They're nice,
wanted,
though.
we wanted a
They
new
are.
one this year.
And the one thing about, I mean, Proverbs 31, there's a lot of people who would be like, your wife or your spouse, it should be a Proverbs 31 woman. Well, every time I've read it, I've always read this not to be like, it's not a submissive position, but it's, they're encouraging women to build themselves up, to make them stronger so that um, they do what they enjoy. And really encouraging the spouse to support that so they can see that person shine in what they do.
Giving women a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But they have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
I had the TV on while I was working last night. That's why I saw all this stuff. This was,
That's why you didn't get your meals done.
but anyway, now this was Jerry Apps giving memories of
I
modern
love-
life.
If
And,
I've read
yeah.
these books, it's
Well,
just-
he said it was my mother said that held everything together. She was in charge of the garden, which was like an acre. She was in charge of all those meals and the meals they had, for the whole threshing. All that. I mean, yeah, it would. I mean, when he described it, and like when they describe it in here too, I think, oh gosh, I can't imagine working that hard.
The one interesting one, she makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Now, I really don't read that as like, be modest or anything, but the fine linen and purple was always the distinction of royalty. And, that's like, I think that's great. And like that first the verse following, her husband is known in the city gates, taking a seat among the elders of the land. I mean, because she is such a strong spouse that he is able to do that, and vice versa.
Yeah, mine says honor.
And this always reminds me of Lydia in the New Testament, because she's the dealer of purple,
Yeah.
and how powerful she was,
Yeah.
and how
It's
she
wealthy compared to other people.
wealthy, and how she received the good news from Paul and everything, and was like, this is powerful. So let me, this is great. And how she was such a bearer of the good news in the early church.
So this was kind of countercultural, wasn't it? I mean, weren't we in other, not the Jewish tradition, but in other traditions, pretty much, yes.
It does seem like that. It does seem like that. Does seem like that. I mean, Proverbs and the whole scope of it was taking you back to the basics of understanding yourself, God's law, and creation in a sense. I mean, we kind of got the gist of that at the end. And all those pieces are what, God has intended for the whole world. God has intended community. And what does that look like? God has intended a relationship with God and God's people and vice versa. And the relationship goes out this way to all people. And what does that look like? And so this wisdom throughout of it is just kind of encouraging everyone to deepen your relationship and your understanding with God, deepen your relationship and your understanding of the law and how that plays out in community. And when you need a good reminder to get back to the basics, Proverbs is it. Proverbs is a simple tool to kind of get back to learning. That neat.
She's not afraid for her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson.
That's an interesting verse, isn't it?
Everyone has clothes. But it's got an asterisk by warm and it says the Hebrew reads scarlet.
Yeah. The Hebrew.
Well, scarlet's red, right? I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep. Proverbs 31, and that was 28. No,
21.
21. So that's the Hebrew snow. Isn't that neat?
Maybe it means more so for her, all her household are well clothed.
Mhm.
You know, that they don't have to be afraid when it snows because of the household, they have close clothes and crimson. Maybe it means more so they have clothing.
Warm clothes.
Okay, she doesn't worry about her family when it snows. Their winter clothes are all mended and ready to wear.
Taking a bit of a stretch with the translation.
Clothing,
That
right.
crimson means.
Right.
They're,
Well made.
mended.
That's what it kind of
Well
means.
mended.
Yeah.
But it does make sense.
Mhm. Well made in a sense.
I remember my mother doing all that. Oh, like mending socks. She'd take the socks and she'd take all those little threads and go this way first in the hole. Then she'd go back and go this way up and down. And in between the.
Would she put it on
already
a
put
light
the
bulb?
wood- Yeah.
We
no,
had
she
it like a
had-
wood.
Yeah.
Had a light bulb.
What?
Light bulb.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I have taken my mother's egg and a couple of her old wooden spools and her thimble and what all else, and put them in a quart jar, an old quart jar. And then I took it to school and asked Bob the janitor to put one of those light bulb things in the top. And so I use it as a lamp and it, on her label it's got her name on it.
Yeah.
Her name's on, she used to
fun.
sew them in our clothes. And I made them into a lamp.
Cool.
Yeah, because that's stuff is important to me. It's in a little bit.
Any questions or thoughts on the whole book of Proverbs?
Yeah, it's good. All the different.
How you can say you read and studied the whole book of Proverbs. You flipped to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes. It's also Psalms, Proverbs, and Ecclesiastes are kind of known as the wisdom literature. Kind of in the same vein.
Yeah.
I mean, we just,
I figured this was written by Solomon.
yeah.
What are we gonna put in that?
I don't know. What do you want to study next?
And I said, well, since you did something in the Old Testament,
Something in the new.
something in the New Testament.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I don't really.
I always like to kind of balance it in that way. Yeah. What book in the New Testament? Never ever have one that you're like, I don't get that. One of Paul's letters.
Study them already.
Well, we studied Acts.
Studied Acts, yeah.
I remember at one point, I was telling Kathy, at one point, many years ago, everybody took a liking, took an interest in Acts, and I was studying Acts in 3 different places. And each one had a different little textbook, and they were all on different, but there was Acts, and I never remember. which
Wow.
book that was. Acts is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I don't know what's the. I'm wondering about Roman. Roman.
I took a whole class on Romans.
Took a whole class in high school on it.
Did you? That was one of my last courses in seminary. That was where I had to translate Romans from Greek to English.
Oh, boy.
That was tough. It's tough. Yeah, I mean, yeah. When you understand and the and all that stuff, it gets easier. Yeah, Greek was okay. Greek language was okay. I took that in college as well, so I didn't have to take it in seminary. But yeah, we went through chapter by chapter, and we had to bring our translation, and then we had a textbook kind of to go along with studying Romans. But it was really neat to I had that class, and then the last was that Reformation history tour. And then on my own with Justin, we were that class was 2 weeks, and then we went and toured Europe 2 weeks wherever we wanted to go. And I was like, let's go to Rome. So we took an overnight train from Zurich, Switzerland to Rome. And I did a little bit of like, one of those walking tours of like Paul. That was great. Just to see like the river and just to imagine Paul baptizing people and about the history, the Vatican Museum. And great. So we could definitely do Roman.